Well, hello, I'm doing a random video. Might as well get done as quick as possible. God, um, this is basically two videos merged into one. And I originally made something before about basically turning the gacha into microtransactions, but I didn't post that mainly because I don't know if it was really warranted or anything. We do need some change to the gacha, but I don't know. It definitely needs to be cheaper, I'll say that. Because I have no problem with it if it's a reasonable price, but yeah. Anyway, that's beside the point. I wanted to talk about the alternative to artifact presets. And this also goes for Honkai Star Rail, believe it or not, and that's why I'll put Honkai Star Rail on the thumbnail as well. Because I think this is an important topic due to the nature of various metas and even then just fun you can have in the game. Because this isn't just a meta thing, and I'll talk about why I bring this up later on. And also a response to this video I met on the Reddit, because for some reason there's still tons of toxicity on the Reddit, and it's crazy. I don't think my post even got any upvotes, and this idea is very good, so I don't know why it got downvoted necessarily. It's a bit confusing. But yeah, so what do I mean when I say alternative to artifact presets? Well, we obviously haven't got artifact presets in the game yet, and that's why there's a demand for it. And the reason we wanted this pretty much 2 years ago now, probably three actually, now I think about it, is because of how you can play characters differently each time. So if you want to play, say for example, a healer for arena, you probably can with an artifact preset, and also they need to fix that bug where her thing changes. It changes back to the minions that do damage instead of the healing one, which is quite annoying now. But if you want to play DPS really, you need to switch back to the DPS artifacts, which is not optimal to be honest, and this is actually the first game I played where that seems to be a massive issue. Well, Honkai Star Rail as well. But the issue is that most games don't have this problem where you need to change things interchangeably, like because of how complex a loadout system is, which is pretty much what it is actually, like entire character stuff, weapon and relic slash artifacts are all a loadout. They're not really something that's easy to change, and that's the problem, to be honest. So the alternative that I proposed and that I posted on the subreddit is basically loadouts, but it has to meet a criteria for it to work. So this involves a bit of sort of, I guess it's like puzzle solving game, but it's not too bad. It's not as bad as it sounds. My example was Vape D-Luke and Overloaded D-Luke, and it's not a great example because you just replace D-Luke with other Kino, to be honest, and that's better. But they have two different purposes really. An Overloaded Arlecchino works with enemies or not, with like Pyro or Electro application already on them. So I imagine Hydro Phantasm, but with Fire or Electro on them. That would be optimal for Arlecchino, so you'd want a different team obviously, but for something like a Hydro Phantasm actually you probably need an overloaded team anyway, because that does the most reaction damage, and that's probably the most optimal way. But the point is just for like general overworld and stuff, and addressing the enemy weaknesses as well as their sort of mechanics, you do need to have a loadout of some sort. And there are definitely bosses where you have this problem. Like I can see the Seahorse being a problem for overloaded Arlecchino, and that's where you do need a loadout that sort of benefits her. And this involves the characters as well, so basically with a loadout you have to have Arlecchino in a team, and the criteria for her to have this loadout with, say, attacks and obviously proper damage goblet and then crit rate circlet or whatever, is to have basically a Pyro and Electro oriented team, so it could be Chevros, Fischl and Bennett. as an example, that would be her overloaded team criteria for her to have a loadout appear. And it's as simple as that. She's got it there. And also, if other characters can be programmed this way, then you can do the same. Like the loadouts, I mean. So Chevros doesn't really need changing, but Bennett might, and so might Fischl. She might need an attack benefited kit. Like, you probably don't actually, but there's different ways to build this, and that's the point. It enables so much freedom. And it's not restrictive, which is the current problem with actually how the game manages itself. Because you are restricted to one loadout unless you want to spend minutes trying to change it and remember what you've changed. It's just not an optimal strategy, and that's why it needs to change. But on the other side, you've got a Vapor the Kino team where you'd want different characters to work with her for that, and a different artifact set, and maybe even weapon. Like, imagine FTP Arlecchino actually not using a signature. Imagine you're using an EM polearm for her vape team and then an attack polearm for her overloaded team. That's where this loadout thing comes in handy. Because now you've got a situation where each team provides a different set for each character, really. And especially for Arlecchino, who's the main DPS. With the Vape team, she'll have an EM Sands, a Pyro Goblet again, and a crit rate, or crit damage circuit. It depends on what she needs, actually. And that's really the difference between the two. Because there's different advantages to it. And the criteria for that loadout to appear, as player programmed as it is, it would be something like Zincho or Yelan, and then probably Kazuha, because he's the best sort of elemental buffer and applicator, or need as an alternative, and then Bennett, who provides an extra attack buff and essentially breaks her. And that's pretty much the criteria for Arlecchino Vape build, Vape team even. And this is just perfect, really. But there is another situation where this works, and this really was kind of the entire point as it relates to Honkai story. I'll bring this up after. But there's different roles that character can play, and Farina is probably one of the best examples here, without really realising it before when I originally made the post. Farina, she has the DPS summon and the healer summon. And you can build her for either, really. I think both work anyway, because it scales off HP, I think. But she can use a healing bonus instead for a healing kit, really. Instead of a... Well, actually, yeah, there's different sets. Like, she uses attack, crit rate stuff for her attack summon, and she uses the HP percent and healing bonus for healing, which is where she would really work out well. Let's be honest. And I'd love to play Farina like that. Just interchangeably, either as a sub DPS or healer. She'd probably pull through quite well. And that's where the loadouts really benefit, because if you want to play her in like a sub DPS team, you equip her with Nouvellette as a criteria. Or if you want her as a healer, you can do like Arlecchino as the main DPS, maybe. Well, there's different complications to it, and I'm not going to say it's always going to be that way. But it could depend on the two other teammates rather than the main DPS, which is where it's important. So, like, the team I have now with Farina as a sub DPS is Nouvellette, Raiden, and Baizu. And they pull through really well. But Farina is the sub DPS because Bailu is a healer. But if I instead had Farina as the healer, the criteria for her there would be to have Baizu replaced with Nahida. So if Nahida's on the team, Farina becomes a healer. As simple as that. And then they proc Hyper Blooms like crazy. And that's really one of the benefits of it. You could do this with a melt team like Garn Yu can be a sub DPS, or There was another character, I can't remember. Ayaka, that was it. Because she could be a main DPS or sub DPS. Not, yeah, sub DPS, yeah. Duh. But there's two different ways to build her, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But I think this is really advantageous as well, because also like Verena's sword and stuff need to be swapped out if you're doing it for like DPS or healing. Like, there's many different considerations, but the point of a loadout system is that it helps fill the role of what you want in the team. And this also gives you something to do in the game as well, which not many people seem to talk about for some reason. Because artifact resets will bring their own sort of complications, in a sense. Like, you have to build one for every single character, and with loadouts you'll have to do it twofold, I think. Or at least 1.5-fold. It's not too bad, to be honest, but it could be worse. Yeah, that's the main advantage in Genshin Impact. In Honkai Star, I was thinking of an example like Ningxia recently, and even Aventurine, and there was another character, but I can't remember. No, I can't remember why for me. But they can be built differently every time, and Ningxia recently seems to be one of the most powerful healers out there. The reason she's so powerful is because she does damage and healing and cleanse. And she also has emergency healing, if I read her kit correctly, because of her Ascension passive, Ascension 6. So she has emergency healing on top of that, which is crazy. Like, let's not overlook that, it's just a fucking crazy thing. But she benefits in different teams in different ways, so for follow-up attacks, she probably wants attack and stuff, rather than break effect, and crit damage and crit rate for that matter. For Acheron teams, which she's very good in because she applies near constant debuffs, I think. She probably benefits more from healing, but she can also use attack / crit rate, and her light gun doesn't really change much. If you have a signature, she's probably a good person slot for all of it, actually, for every type of team. But if you use her for a break team, then she needs to be break effect oriented, so those previous relics won't really work for her. So you need her with break effect instead of attack. So that's really beneficial to her. Yeah, I think that's it for her really, but the criteria really is the type of team she's with. So for example, my Acheron team, where she'd be attack / crit, and obviously outgoing healing and speed boots, that's standard. She'd be near the criteria of Acheron, Jiao Chao, and Pillar. That's where she'd be most optimal and most powerful. But if she was in the break team, she would need to be paired alongside for the criteria for loadout for the break effect team. It would be Firefly, Royal May, and Harmony Trailblazer. So it's really simple, really, when you look at it, like in terms of images, I guess. Well, that's the best way I've found to read that sort of stuff. But with teams like that, it's easier to sort of imagine how they work. Yeah, that's really the main advantage of a loadout system as opposed to presets. Where the loadouts can really use presets in them and just work differently, just for different things. Now I've got to respond to this stupid comment I had, and it was probably a troll, let's be honest here. Someone said that there's no use for this loadout system, and there's no meta that involves these. It's like, well, no, that's not the point. The point of a loadout system is to give you the freedom to change and use different teams whenever you want, without having to fucking go all over again, manually replacing every relic, artifact, or whatever. It's quite frankly dumb that I even got this comment. And the comment also bragged about basically 36 starring Abyss every single rotation in Genshin Impact. It's like, Yeah, you're a whale. Who fucking cares? Like, it's just nonsense. But yeah, the main thing really is the freedom, and it's not necessarily for the meta exactly. I just want the freedom and ease of being able to swap teams out when I need to. Because again, like Spiral Abyss, in game content where it matters most, being able to load a team using a loadout is pretty essential. Like, there's not a lie about this. Because if you're going up against, say, Hydro Top, or I don't know, like Spiral Abyss with Valakino, and that's the floor 12 boss, you'll probably want to use an overloaded team, or maybe Vape. But even then, the next boss could be like Electro Shield and stuff like Seals. But you'd need a character that can deal with that, so other than going over it all over again with a different team, which is inefficient, I hate that. The only other way really is just tank it or switch loadouts, and again, this is where loadouts come in handy. So if you use just an overloaded team, you'll be able to do it still. That's the point. Yeah, I just fed up of the toxicity of the community and its closed-mindedness. It's crazy. There's also the criteria I forgot to mention that there could be elemental resonance. So for example, you can use a double Dendro on Arlecchino's team somehow with Yeon or something, and that could trigger her EM based stats and stuff. Yeah, I think that would work. Could be wrong. Again, it's different uses and more freedom. There's nothing really to complain about with this. You know, one of the sad things about this entire situation is that it's taken so long to even get something like this in the game. Like, the custom configuration is good for new players, but it's not good for veteran players, and it feels very sort of tone deaf whenever I use it. Like, it's just never worth using anymore. And really the thing we want is basically like the third party stuff. Like a while ago, players had to use like an inventory camera and stuff, and then upload the data to a website that will calculate the best builds, and it does work for players, I think. And I think it's still used, but we needed something like that in the game, not this shitty custom configuration. Like, we just needed to know what the best artifacts were, like what our characters were holding, even that we can swap out. It's as simple as that. And also weapon as well. Weapon matters too. It's definitely not an easy situation, but come on. This needs to be addressed really quickly, because I don't think players really enjoying the game as much with the characters that we have. Because we can't just change as quickly as we could, really. As quickly as we want to, I mean. Getting breathless. I don't know why. It's very bizarre. Anyway, this final thing I wanted to discuss is really a message to the devs. I'll start this out nicely because I think I should, because it's commendable really, of what the devs have done with Honkai Star Rail and Genshin Impact. They're great games. I love playing them, and also thanks for the experience, because I don't know what I'll do without these games, to be honest. They're such a crucial part of my daily life and give me something to look forward to when I'm often depressed and down. And also lonely, but I don't really care too much about that anymore, to be honest. But they've helped me through some rough times, and yeah, it's great that these games exist, even if they have the gacha. It's just good that there's something that I can focus on, and others can focus on for that matter. But there's really something that sort of places a turd all over this, and that is basically the lack of thought and testing that is put into the game at times. And I've wrote a few examples down here that I'll read off. But I wanted to say first, please test your game as a player, not as a dev, because when you test it as a dev, you're testing in a closed space, an enclosed space basically, and you're not testing it as a player would, where you play a game in its entirety. Because devs basically play it in segments, in sections, and that's where the flaws appear. So for example, if you're testing Katrina as a dev, you only test her in that one. You're not testing her anywhere else, and this basically screws everyone over because there's a considerable lack of consideration. But I even noticed this as well when I was using Rolani in other areas. I was surprised I couldn't switch to her. Even though you can with some characters, you can't switch to Rolani for some reason, like on water or I forgot where the other place was. Like even Katrina, you can't switch to her in any other region but Natlan. That sucks. But the specific bug that sort of got me talking about this is Katrina's summon not working in the UA. There was a YouTube short watched of this, and she couldn't put her summon on top of these puzzles where you need to put a summon on them, like Amber's doll, I forgot her name, Baron, that's it. Or even Geotraver's pillar, or Donglee's, whoever's. They could even do it with Vita, I think. Yeah. But the other examples I have here is Neutral Spin to Win strategy. This was easily one of the most tone deaf changes, and it shows that the devs don't really play this as a player because they don't know what we're thinking or feeling. What essentially 1,000 people strong team won't realise about the game is that millions of players have different experiences to theirs. And this is crucial to understanding how a game works. Because games will fail if you don't acknowledge this. It's essentially a vicious cycle, and you have to play as a player to an extent because you won't understand what the players want and what they feel and why they disappear. This is why various live service games have started to fail. Like the recent example actually that I also sort of made a video on but didn't release was Concord. And Concord was insanely tone deaf, both in presentation and marketing, and even just how the game plays. It wasn't what players wanted, so essentially, and according to speculation, $400 million was just wasted. They made nothing of it, and essentially it's because of what the devs did. They tested their game as developers and didn't give them to the players. They didn't give players a test or didn't play it as a player. They couldn't really see what's coming, and that's really the scary part. And that's what's going to happen here and many other games. So yeah. Also, the final example is Milani's targeting issues. I've always had a problem with this. Both her ultimate and her skill can just miss every now and then on certain enemies. It can be a positioning issue, which is down to the player, but also they just miss sometimes when they shouldn't, but they just swerve past them somehow. It's very bizarre, and this is what I mean by testing as a player and not a dev. Yeah. Anyway, I'll try and wrap up the video now because I'm absolutely breathless. There's a lot to talk about. But I really want the games to do well in gameplay sense. I think there's a lot that could be done better. But it's just tiring really, to be honest, because I want to enjoy these games even more. Have more reason to play them. But I think there's still a long way to go. It's disappointing when I see issues like this in the game still. Because they just shouldn't be a thing. If you've even played the game, you'd know what the issues are. But because it's not played by the devs, clearly, it's not shown through the patches that they actually care. And that's really the sad part of this. Because these are decent games. But also become laughing stocks because they just become indecent. There's no other better way of putting it. It's because they're indecent that they just don't work and don't feel enjoyable. But yeah, I'll end it now. Thanks for watching. I'm interested to hear what other people might think. Not necessarily going to agree on everything, but you know, yeah. So see you in another video.